Have you ever just stopped and wondered how your body works? You know, how a cut heals all by itself, or how your heart knows to beat faster when you run? Well, it's not magic. It's actually a secret language, this incredible conversation happening between the trillions of cells that make you, well, you. So today, let's dive into that hidden world of how your cells talk to each other.
I mean, just think about it for a second. You've got trillions of cells, muscle cells, nerve cells, immune cells, and they all have completely different jobs. How in the world do they coordinate? How does this massive, bustling city of cells avoid complete chaos and instead work like a perfectly synchronized team?
Well, the answer is this amazing process called cell signaling. You can think of it as the body's own private internet. It's this huge, complex network that sends messages everywhere, making sure every single cell knows exactly what to do, when to do it, and how to do it. Honestly, without it, we just wouldn't be here.
Okay, so if it's a language, it must have some rules, right? A basic grammar. And it does. So let's break down the fundamental principles, starting with the two most important players in any of these cellular chats.
Every conversation needs a sender and a receiver. In our cells, the message itself is a molecule called a ligand. You can think of it as a tiny chemical text message. And the receiver is a protein called, you guessed it, a receptor. Now here's the really cool part. It's incredibly specific. The receptor is like a lock, and only one particular ligand, the key, can fit into it. This is so important because it guarantees the message only gets delivered to the right cells.
And this whole thing happens in 6 pretty clear steps. First, a cell makes the message. Then it sends it out. The message travels to its target. And then it's detected when that key fits into its lock. That binding triggers a response. Maybe the cell divides, or maybe it starts making a new protein. And then, and this is just as critical, the signal gets turned off. You don't want that response going on forever, right? It's a perfectly controlled loop. But, not all messages have to travel the same distance. Just like we can shout to a friend across the room or call someone on the other side of the planet, our cells have different ways of communicating over long and short distances. Let's check out their different calling plans. So we can kind of break it down into 3 types. For the long-distance calls, you've got endocrine signaling. This is where hormones travel through the bloodstream to reach cells far, far away. Then there's paracrine signaling, which is more like talking to your next-door neighbor. Think of neurotransmitters jumping between nerve cells. And finally, there's autocrine signaling. This is literally a cell talking to itself, using things like growth factors to tell itself what to do.
Now let's zoom back in on those long-distance messengers, the hormones. It turns out they're not all created equal. They basically fall into 2 main groups, and it all depends on one simple thing. Can they get past the cell's bouncer, the cell membrane? This one difference leads to 2 totally different ways of getting the message inside.
On one hand, you've got your lipid-soluble hormones. These are the VIPs. Because they're made of fat, they can just slip right through the cell's fatty membrane, no problem. They've got the all-access pass. But then you have the water-soluble hormones. They can't get through that membrane, so they have to ring the doorbell. They bind to a receptor on the outside of the cell to pass the message along.
So what does the VIP do? It just strolls right in, past the bouncer. Once inside, it finds its specific receptor, and together, they head straight to the cell's command center, the nucleus. There, they act like a master switch, directly turning genes on or off. This is a really powerful way to do things, causing big changes that can last for hours or even days. Steroid hormones work this way.
Now, the doorbell method is a little more indirect, but it has a secret superpower. The hormone binds to the receptor on the outside, and that flips a switch on a molecule just inside the membrane called the G protein. The G protein then wakes up an enzyme, and that enzyme starts churning out thousands of little molecules called second messengers. See? The original hormone never even gets inside.
And this is where things get really wild. That whole second messenger system isn't just about getting a message through a door. It's about turning a tiny little whisper outside the cell into an absolute roar inside the cell. It's all about amplification.
So let's put an official name to this thing. A second messenger, a really common one is called CAMP, is that molecule inside the cell that gets created after the first message arrives. Its job is to relay that signal and, more importantly, to amplify it like crazy as it spreads through the cell. And it all starts so small. Just one. A single hormone molecule arrives at the surface of the cell and finds its receptor. That's it. Just one little molecule.
But that one molecule binding to that one receptor kicks off a chain reaction. It activates an enzyme that can crank out thousands and thousands of those second messenger molecules, like CAMP. All of a sudden, that one signal is now thousands of signals. The dominoes have started to fall.
This whole chain reaction has a name. It's called a signal transduction cascade. It's a beautiful domino effect, where each step makes the signal bigger and bigger. And it's exactly how a tiny whisper of a signal on the outside can become a massive, thundering roar of a response on the inside. Okay, I know this can all feel a little abstract, so let's make it real. Let's talk about something every single one of us has felt: an adrenaline rush. That sudden jolt of energy, the pounding heart, the laser focus, that, my friends, is cell signaling in action.
And get this fact is just staggering. An absolutely tiny, almost undetectable amount of adrenaline, the scientific name is epinephrine, can cause a massive 50% jump in your blood sugar. That is the insane power of signal amplification right there.
So, to understand how this works, let's meet the cast of characters. The external signal, of course, is adrenaline. It rings the doorbell, which is a specific receptor. That wakes up the relay molecule, the GS protein, which then turns on the factory, an enzyme that starts making our second messenger, CAMP. Finally, all that CAMP activates the last player in the chain, which is going to carry out the final command.
And here's the play-by-play. Adrenaline binds. The receptor activates the G protein. The G protein turns on the enzyme. The enzyme creates a flood of CMP. All that CMP activates our final molecule, protein kinase A. And what does protein kinase A do? It screams one order to the cell: break down all our stored sugar and release it as glucose now.
The result of this incredible cascade is that your cells just dump a massive amount of fuel, glucose, into your bloodstream. It's like hitting the turbo button on your car. This instant flood of energy is what you feel as an adrenaline rush, getting you ready to either fight or run for your life, all from one tiny signal setting off a beautiful cellular chain reaction.
And this kind of symphony is happening inside you all the time, for everything from thinking a thought to digesting your lunch. We just saw how a nearly non-existent amount of adrenaline can trigger a full-body fight or flight response. So it just makes you wonder, right? What other incredible conversations are your cells having right now to keep you going?